For more than 5 decades, Mitchell has stood as one of music's bravest innovators. She never repeated herself. She never chose safety over truth. But even artists who reshape the world begin as students. Joni absorbed music with obsessive curiosity, studying albums that challenged rules and ignored expectations. She learned from rock rebels, jazz explorers, and folk truth tellers. From both light and shadow, structure and chaos, masculine and feminine energy. Those influences didn't turn her into a copy of anyone else. They gave her permission to trust her instincts, even when they led somewhere unfamiliar. Musicians like Mitchell hear what lies beneath a song: unconventional chord movements, daring tunings, lyrical fearlessness. These records revealed a mindset that valued innovation over tradition and honesty over popularity. If you love stories about artists who reshaped music forever, subscribe to Legends Uncovered. These are the 10 albums that inspired Joni Mitchell to break every rule and create a path entirely her own. Listen the way she did, with curiosity, openness, and wonder. 1. Rubber Soul. This album changed everything. Released in 1965, Rubber Soul marked the Beatles' transformation from pop stars into evolving artists. Lyrics grew introspective. Arrangements became richer. Songs like Norwegian Wood and In My Life introduced maturity, new textures, and emotional depth. Joni saw proof that commercial success and artistic ambition didn't have to be opposites. Rubber Soul offered a blueprint: constant growth, fearless change, and respect for the audience. Joni Mitchell never followed anyone else's road. These 10 albums didn't give her instructions. They revealed what was possible. They taught her that rules exist to be broken, genres can imprison creativity, and honesty matters more than perfection. 2. Astral Weeks. This album drifted between dimensions. Released in 1968, Astral Weeks captured Van Morrison at his most spiritual and free. Jazz-inflected folk, abstract lyrics, and searching vocals created an experience rather than a collection of songs. Tracks like Madame George and Cypress Avenue unfolded gradually, guided by emotion instead of structure. Joni admired how Morrison trusted the listener's patience. Astral Weeks taught her that songs didn't need rigid forms. They could wander and still be powerful. 3. Are You Experienced? This album exploded every boundary. Released in 1967, Are You Experienced reimagined what the guitar could be. Jimi Hendrix treated his instrument like an extension of imagination itself. Screams, whispers, distortion, sounds no one knew were possible. Joni was inspired by his fearlessness. Hendrix showed her that instruments weren't limits, they were gateways. She would later develop her own unconventional tunings, crafting a sonic palette as unique as his. Tradition was only a starting point, not a cage. 4. Songs of Leonard Cohen. This album spoke in whispers. Released in 1967, Leonard Cohen's debut paired poetic lyrics with spare folk arrangements. Cohen's voice wasn't conventionally beautiful, but it was hypnotic in its honesty. Songs like Suzanne and So Long. Marianne unfolded slowly, letting every word breathe. Joni admired how he trusted language to carry the weight. He proved that strong lyrics didn't need elaborate production. From Cohen, she learned that songs could be literature, emotionally rich, precise, and timeless. 5. Ellington at Newport. This album captured lightning in real time. Recorded in 1956, Ellington at Newport preserved Duke Ellington's orchestra at its most electrifying. Paul Gonsalves' legendary tenor sax solo on Diminuendo and Crescendo in Blue sent the crowd into chaos. Joni heard the magic of improvisation, how a single inspired moment could become immortal. Ellington balanced control with freedom, allowing musicians space to soar. The lesson was clear: great performances can't be manufactured. They happen when preparation meets spontaneity. Joni carried this belief into the studio, always chasing that elusive spark of live energy. 6. Beggar's Banquet. This album was raw, defiant, and unapologetic. Released in 1968, Beggar's Banquet marked the Rolling Stones' return to their blues foundation. There was no polish here, only grit, swagger, and authenticity. Tracks like Sympathy for the Devil and Street Fighting Man carried danger in every note. Jagger's vocals were theatrical but honest. Keith Richards' guitar work was simple and devastating. Joni respected their refusal to clean things up for comfort. Beggar's Banquet showed her that imperfection could be powerful. Sometimes the rough edges were what made music feel alive. Real always mattered more than flawless. 7. Mingus. This album moved like a living organism. Released in 1959, Mingus showcased Charles Mingus leading jazz that balanced structure with wild emotion. Mingus blended intellect and feeling, refusing to sacrifice one for the other. Tracks like Goodbye, Pork Pie Hat, and Better Get It in Your Soul fused blues, gospel, and avant-garde jazz into something explosive. Joni admired how Mingus honored tradition while tearing it open. His music proved that complexity didn't have to feel cold. Mingus taught her that sophistication and soul could coexist, that an artist didn't need to choose between the head and the heart. 8. Blue. This album was vulnerability without armor. Released in 1971, Blue became Joni's defining statement, but its confessional spirit had roots in Bob Dylan's fearless honesty. Dylan showed her that songs could be personal diaries, that emotional exposure could be art. On Blue, tracks like River and A Case of You stripped everything down. No studio tricks, no disguises, just voice, piano, guitar, and truth. She admired Dylan's willingness to reveal doubt, pain, and confusion. The lesson here was intimacy. When an artist shares something deeply personal, listeners recognize themselves inside it. Dylan opened that door. Joni walked through it and transformed it, creating an album so honest it still resonates decades later. 9. Kind of Blue. This album made space audible. Released in 1959, Kind of Blue introduced a new jazz philosophy. Miles Davis and his band leaned into modal improvisation, creating music that drifted, breathed, and expanded. Joni was captivated by the openness, by how silence carried as much meaning as sound. Music. Every musician listened deeply, responding instead of overpowering. Tracks like So What and Blue and Green unfolded like quiet conversations. Davis's trumpet said everything with astonishing restraint. Joni learned that power doesn't come from excess, it comes from intention. Kinda Blue taught her that music didn't need to be crowded with notes to be profound. Sometimes the quiet moments carried the greatest weight. She carried that lesson into her own work, allowing songs to breathe and emotions to settle naturally. 10. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts. Club Band. This album shattered the rulebook. Released in 1967, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band redefined what rock music could be. Music that's... The Beatles turned the recording studio into an instrument, layering sounds, ideas, and textures no one had attempted before. Joni heard freedom in every moment. Orchestras, sitars, tape effects, and bold production choices transformed the album into something larger than music. It became art. Both sides now later served as her own philosophical summary of life's contradictions. But Sgt. Pepper showed her something essential. Songs didn't need fixed formulas. Tracks like A Day in the Life and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds moved effortlessly between whimsy and depth. She admired the Beatles' willingness to experiment in public, to take massive risks with the whole world watching. That courage fueled her own evolution. The lesson Sgt. Pepper gave Joni was simple and powerful. Never let genre define you, and never let expectations fence you in. Exploration was the job. Growth was the goal. Which album gave you permission to be yourself? Share your story in the comments, and subscribe to Legends Uncovered for more stories of artists who refuse to fit inside boxes. Music needs rebels. Always has, always will.